How do? Welcome to Liquid Football with myself, Tenacious G, and the Yorkie Man. After an interesting weekend of football, shall we get into it and discuss it all? Because been some interesting happenings, but we will talk about it, but we don't really want to. There's Leeds later on. That'll probably be one of the last ones. But we'll get into the first game of the weekend, which was on Friday night. Wolves against Crystal Palace. It finished 2-0 to Wolves. Debut goal for, what's he called that?
Out-Nuri.
Ait-Nuri, yeah.
That's how they said it.
Ait-Nuri. Yeah, debut goal from him. How did you see the game, mate?
Wolves were great, weren't they?
Yeah.
Wolves were great. Weirdly, Palace were really bad.
Yeah.
People seem to think that the Palace that played against Manchester United is the Palace that's played every game. I think Palace play a certain way. It was a game of wing-backs. I think Nelson Semedo and Nuri in his first performance, I thought they were brilliant. And Podence. Podence he's a problem. He's a problem for defensives. He is so good on the ball. People are talking a lot about Wolves. You lose Jota. You can't replace a player like Jota. What are they going to do? I don't think Wolves will do well because they've lost Jota. I think Podence just walks straight into his position and plays extremely well. He's going to be a big player for him. I think he got the second goal, didn't he?
I believe so. Let me just check.
I think Podence got the second goal. So,
yes, he did. 27 minutes, yeah.
He's replaced, if anything, I'd say Jimenez is underperforming at the minute. Podence has replaced Jota absolutely fine. And Wolves just keep plodding along doing what they're doing. Their philosophy, I love. I absolutely love. People are like, oh, it's Portugal. It's practically the Portuguese thing. Who cares? Because whatever they're doing, it works.
It's working.
He gets in players that work for him. They've got an exciting squad, man. Imagine Nuri, as football manager players, Nuri's a player, because he's a wonder kid and he's supposed to be a brilliant player. And we're a few years down the line now, so maybe he is now developing into that wonderful player. But Nelson Semedo, again, they've got a Barcelona right back in Nelson Semedo. And everyone whinging about, oh, God, Doherty's gone. I think they're going to struggle. I think Wolves have done brilliant business.
He's played very well in this Semedo so far.
Yeah, they've made a lot of money off of Jota. I was a bit sceptical myself with the Doherty deal. I just thought it was cheap. I thought it was brilliant for them, and I thought it was cheap. But when you bring in Nelson Semedo, you've got Nuri. You've got Adama Traore sat on the bench. Their bench is far stronger, in my opinion, this season than it was last season. I think they're going to be a problem. They're not always going to play good football. Like they didn't play good football against us, but they'll get results. They've got danger going forward, and Palace were just overrun. I thought Palace were really poor. I think there was a penalty shout. Obviously, with this being a pay-per-view game,
Yeah. It was from what I remember, it was given offside. It was given offside anyway because that's what ruled it.
Van Aanholt was definitely offside.
Yeah.
So I know Roy was a little bit frustrated with it, but I think Palace, they don't have an answer for teams that play a certain way. You can only defend so much, and Wolves play that free at the back, and it's really difficult to counter against. We saw it. We dominated the game against Wolves, and it was bloody near impossible to break them down when we were on control. So to counter against them is going to be just as difficult, and they've got a great defense in my opinion. Connor Cody is just strength to strength. He's a brilliant player. In my opinion, it should be on the England team sheet every game, no matter what. And
current form of the defenders
might get you top 4 prediction right.
I'm going to say, I'm going to get on to that. Say, and do you think my prediction's looking good?
No, I would still say 7th. There's other teams. They'll come undone. There's no doubt in that. But again, I think when you look at the squad, it is so young as well. Obviously, an experienced keeper. You've got some experienced players in there like João Moutinho that's going to be great to have around that locker room. He's been all over the shop. He knows. He's been at top-tier football teams at Monaco at a time where they were really good. So I think Ruben Neves' progression has been really helped over the years with Moutinho being alongside him, especially just in the locker room, because he adjusted to English football extremely quickly, did Neves. And I'd be excited if I was a Wolves fan. I always like watching them. They were a little bit boring against us, but hey, Nuno seems to be very clued up when it comes to tactics, and I think they could be in for a good season. They've got a really exciting young squad as well, in my opinion. I can't wait to see them do more. And a worry for me would be Jimenez is definitely out of form, but you kind of know if he finds form. them goals are going to start smashing into the back of the net regardless.
We got a couple of goals recently, did it? But one obviously was a deflection of Calvin Phillips' head, and he got one in next game as well. Newcastle won it, the draw, 1-1. But
it's not been his game self.
He's not been like the striker that was lit up the Premier League last season. So I understand where you're coming from there. But you think Palace are going to be dropping like a stone, or do you think it's just a bit of a one-off? Because Milijevic obviously going to be missing. Red card.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a red card? Because he slid in. It kind of at first I thought that's not a foul, but then you see his other leg on the camera angle come through. Is it seen as 2-footed?
It doesn't slide in as if it's malicious or as if it's aggressive, but he does make contact with the leg quite nastily. And I think when you slow that down, it's always going to look bad. And I think it did. When it was in slow motion, looking at it back, you're like, "Ooh, he's caught his leg quite nastily there." It's one of them. I don't know what's a red card anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd love to have it fully explained what's a red card and what's not, because we've seen them before and it not be a red. We've seen a lot of them and it not be a red, and then we've seen one that is a red. So, I mean, it's that borderline of. He certainly wasn't trying to endanger the opponent. He slid in to get the ball. The ball is still there, and he's caught the leg. He's caught the
late, isn't he?
trailing leg, which was a little bit late. Is it a red? Is it a yellow? I don't know anymore. I really don't.
I don't think many people would have complained if it was a yellow.
I don't think it's another one of them, and we say it week in, week out, that we wouldn't even be talking about if it hadn't been sent off.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, in a very good win for Wolves. We'll move on to the next game, which I believe was the Sheffield United against Man City game, where Man City absolutely completely destroyed, in terms of possession anyway, and chances. 1-0, only 1-0, like. Kyle Walker gets his former team, but yeah, pretty much like the most completely dominating performance, you would say, probably against Sheffield United, because they're usually pretty good, aren't they?
I disagree.
You disagree?
I thought Man City got lucky.
Really?
I think if Man City had played against a side that could cross the ball, it would have been a different result. I saw them in several occasions have decent possession down the wings with their false centre-backs, with their wingers, with Sander Berg.
I saw him get through a few times, yeah.
I think maybe once I can remember them putting a dangerous ball in, and it was a good ball, and they were close. I think Man City... they dominated the game. Let's not get this wrong. They dominated the game. They dominated possession. I don't think they created an overly amount of amazing opportunities and chances, but they didn't need to. They took the lead. They were in control. But I genuinely feel like Man City are always there to get at. And if you don't put the balls in, if you don't put the dangerous balls in, then you're never gonna cause a problem. I think a better side, it might have been a different game. But again, with Man City, you don't know that because you don't know which Man City is going to turn up. I think, from my perspective, Sheffield United could have done a lot better. That's not me saying that Man City didn't dominate the game or didn't deserve the win. I just feel like Sheffield United never really asked any questions of Man City. So we didn't really learn about Man City's back line because Sheffield United's performance was that poor going forward that their strikers fed off scraps. Don't remember them getting decent balls. I feel like Sarri's been talking to Chris Wilder because they just played the ball back a lot and sideways, back and sideways, back and sideways, back and sideways. I'm the entire time I'm thinking you've got McBurney, good header of the ball. Brewster, I think if you fizz a low ball into him, he can get on the end of it. And I didn't see that at any stage. They just didn't seem to play the ball. And when they did play the ball long to McBurney, he won it most of the time, but there was no one near him for him to knock it to. It was like, why are you playing it long then? It just seemed really negative football from Sheffield United, which we're not used to. I don't know if that could be down to personnel and confidence and not being mega confident to put the ball in, but I just didn't feel like they asked any questions of the Man City that they could have done.
Like I said, do you think the form of Sheffield United is the reason because he didn't want to get destroyed? That's why he played so negative, just to like damage limitation.
I would be very surprised if it was down to Chris Wilder.
Right, you just think it was the players maybe giving too much respect?
I think the players let him down.
Right.
I think when they were on the ball, they still looked to move and pass the ball nicely, but I think they got themselves and look. I watched the game live and I didn't really pick up on this that much. I thought the game was a bit boring, if I'm being 100% honest. And Man City don't look at the races without a striker. Ferran Torres did nice in that like false kind of striker role, and it's not his usual role. And I thought he looked good. His movement was brilliant, but I wasn't massively impressed with Man City. They didn't go on and absolutely batter Sheffield United. I don't remember them having that many chances where you were like, oh, God, they should have scored that. I remember it being a really just kind of stale chess match, especially once Man City scored. And I think, like Leeds and Man City, I know we liken games to Leeds, but they're games we've watched. And I think if Sheffield United had have asked a few questions of that Man City backline, we might have seen a different situation. Because Man City wouldn't have. I don't see them getting tons of goals without their strikers. I think they're going to struggle, and they didn't. In my opinion, I didn't look at it as a Man City complete domination. And then watching Match of the Day, they pointed out and highlighted several occasions that Sheffield United got into a crossing position and didn't cross. And then when I'm thinking about it, watching the game, I'm like, yeah, that did happen a lot. That did happen a lot. They did get down the line and then pass it back. And when you think about it, why aren't you putting the ball in? You've got 40, 50 million pounds worth of strike talent in the box. They got bodies in the box as well. This was the crazy thing. They committed men forward, just never put the ball in.
Very bizarre, I guess. Then, yeah, it's surprising. Like I say, they obviously had a lot of the ball. That's maybe I'm misconstrued when I'm saying that it's complete domination. But I just thought like Sheffield United didn't really create many chances. They had one late on, like you said, where they did actually cross the ball. They put it over at bar. I think it was Lundstrom. But other than that, there was nothing really. Yeah, it was just over at bar, I think, for him. But it was really good.
That's the question mark, though, isn't it? They had that one opportunity where they finally crossed the ball, and he put it over at bar. Why didn't they cross more? Because you never know, do you?
Of course, yeah.
Man City will always dominate possession.
Apart from
9 times out of 10, but 9 times out of 10, Man City are going to dominate possession when you watch them play.
Yeah.
Leon beat them when Man City dominated possession, and they went at them at the back line. And I feel like you can do that to Man City. I really do think you can do that to Man City. You've just got to be brave enough. The Sheffield United won.
Fair enough. Well, I suppose we can move on to the next game, which was another early-ish kickoff. The one after it was Burnley against Chelsea. Burnley got destroyed 3-0. Chelsea looked good, but is it more they were good or was it more Burnley were poor?
Difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't even think Burnley were terrible. They just defensively they weren't what you expect from them, and they seemed like they were feeding off scraps a lot going forward. But Chelsea seemed to have fixed that defensive problem. I quite like the way he played Kante in the game. Just kind of played him as like an anchor.
Yeah,
was like one more defensive player, which I really like to see. I think that's a good move from them. Ziyech is a bit of a revelation. He seems to be settling now into the team. He scored
first two starts, I think it is.
Yeah, he scored midweek as well in the Champions League. So I think they're certainly starting to find a rhythm, which I don't. I think we all expected at some stage they would find a rhythm. It was whether Frank could get it going. They were playing a team out of form and down on their luck, so it's difficult to be singing from the rafters about Chelsea, but solid performance, great win for them, and again a clean sheet, which was the biggest issue earlier on in the season, and not that long ago against a team like Southampton. But it's starting to prove that Southampton are going to be a bit of an issue for teams in the league this year. But I think he'll be happiest that he's getting those clean sheets. And Thiago Silva's looked really good.
Yeah. Zuma alongside him, obviously getting a goal. They got two quick goals, didn't they? Werner got one. Memory is just leaving me a little bit for how that goal ended up back in there. But it was a good finish, if I remember rightly. It
was a really good pass into him out on the left.
That's it, yeah.
It was a nice finish.
Yeah.
They played really well. When you play against Burnley, and Burnley are at home, you can't really ask for a better result then. And I think Lampard will be absolutely over the moon with it because they're a tough side. It was wet, it was windy. And I think they got the job done. I'd be happy, especially if I was a Chelsea fan, because going into the game, I suppose you don't know what's going to happen, do you?
Yeah, you never know with Burnley, do you? But are they becoming a bit more predictable this season? Because, I mean, do you worry for them at all? Because obviously they're still on, was it 1 point I think they're on?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a bit of a
Burnley
weird
have had
situation, isn't it?
Several times. And I think with Sean Dyche, they'll be absolutely fine.
They've only scored 3 goals this season. Is it a case of... Well, I don't know. But Barnes and Wood have worked so well, haven't they, for so long, for the last couple of years. It's just surprising that it's like them and Sheffield United both only scored 3 goals. I mean, we've highlighted Sheffield United having goal-scoring problems, but...
We've had this Well, we haven't. People have this conversation every year when Burnley start badly. Is this the year Burnley are going to become undone? Is this the year? I just don't see it. I think Sean Dyche is a brilliant manager. I think when they start going on a run, when they play teams like West Brom, they play teams like Fulham, even teams like Palace, so they'll collect results. I think it's only a matter of time. The Sheffield United one, I think they need to change quite a bit. But Burnley will start to catch teams out and start to cause them problems, I think, once they find their rhythm. They always start slow.
Fair dues, yeah. So basically, job well done for Chelsea. Get a bit into the swing of it now, maybe showing a bit more of a threat. So we'll move on now to I think it was the evening game, Liverpool-West Ham, I think. Is that right? Yeah, it is. The evening game, Liverpool-West Ham, 2-1. West Ham went 1-0 up, despite no Mikel Antonio. Who was it that scored now? In fact, it's on here.
It was Haller, wasn't it?
No, it was 4-0. 4-0.
Oh, yeah.
Good finish from him, right? Wasn't it?
Terrible header from Joe Gomez.
Yeah, shocking header, but he
highlights. It wasn't a good finish. I think he miskicked it.
Well, pretty
I think he sliced it.
Well, yeah, I suppose sometimes they end up looking better, I guess. But yeah, Salah got a penalty.
It wasn't
a bit dubious. And Diego Jota getting the goal at the second bite of the cherry. Fantastic pass from Shaqiri, by the way. What a ball. Like through Ivan Edo, beautiful. But not a game of many chances, but obviously Liverpool dominated possession as you would probably expect. But yeah, obviously it was a tough game for them. But how did you see it?
West Ham's going to be a tough game for a lot of teams this year.
Yeah, I agree.
They've found their stride.
After the start that everyone thought it was doom and gloom.
It's only one game,
including us. Well, no, the first two, wasn't it? They lost the first two. We're on about like the fact that Noble could not criticising selling Diangana and people things like that, and we were thinking, shit, something's got to change.
It's looking like a stroke of genius now, the Diangana situation, because he's gone to West Brom, and I don't think they'll do much. And they signed Ben Rama, and I don't know, we've only seen a glimpse of him, but it's looking like it weren't that bad of a deal at the moment, because I don't think Diangana would have got game time. Doesn't look like he would have got game time there anyway. So I do feel like maybe they cashed in to bring in Ben Rama, and I don't know how angry you could be as a West Ham fan at the moment.
Well, they've only got him as on loan, haven't they, Ben Rama? End of season, I think they're going to pay a fee.
Got an
option to buy, yeah. I mean, obviously we saw a lot of Ben Rama last season. He's obviously a good player, but I suppose in a way they sold Diangana, and I'm pretty sure it was David Sullivan that said this, because they had too many wingers at the club. And they're bringing another winger in. You know what I mean? Without moving the others on.
It depends, though, doesn't it? Because you could say too many left wingers.
Yeah, true enough, yeah, I suppose.
Garner playing on the left, and you've still got Felipe Anderson sitting on the bench that they paid a lot of money for.
They need to
Ben Rama, Rayleigh, could play any of the three.
That's true. A bit more versatility.
Quite comfortably. I'm not saying Diangana couldn't. I didn't know that he'd said that. I thought they sold him.
I remember he were on radio not long after it happened.
Storyline I read was that they'd sold him in order to have funds to sign other players.
Yeah, there was that as well.
David Moyes couldn't sign anyone without sales. That's kind of what they'd said with COVID going on. And I think I'm not sure it'll be a smart bit of business. But I think West Ham have got enough in the squad they've got, and they probably need to sell players before they bring players in, because they've got a lot of big money on the bench. Haller, Felipe Anderson, and I'm just happy to see Fornell starting to really find his rhythm in the team and in a David Moyes team that I didn't think he'd fit in. He's a player that I really rated in the Spain under-21 squad when they did really well in, might have been the World Cup or the Euros. I can't remember which one they won.
Did they win it? Yeah.
I think they won it, yeah. And he was
finalist, but yeah.
He was brilliant, and I think for me, when you look at West Ham at the moment, you know, they don't need a lot of the possession. They don't need any of that. They play such a way that they're so difficult. They've got to be one of the best defensive sides I've watched this season in terms of to break down, especially watching them against Man City. I felt they were a bit unlucky, and I feel like they were unlucky in this one because I don't think it was a penalty. I think,
No.
There's contact on Salah, so instantly people go, definitely a penalty. My issue is the way Salah goes down. So maybe it was a penalty in terms of the contact, but he clips the back of Salah's foot, and the same foot that's been clipped, he then plants and then throws himself to the ground.
Yeah,
I just don't like seeing it. I just don't like seeing it. I thought you weren't that injured because you planted your foot. The tackle hasn't made you go down. You've been kicked and then decided you're going to go down. I just don't like seeing that in football. And Salah's done it a few times. It's not his first time being called out for diving. I think he went down far too softly. I
completely agree.
I felt a little bit. I'd feel a little bit aggrieved if I were a West Ham fan, for sure, and especially if I was Masuaku, because by all rights he played fairly well. But Liverpool have got the ability to bring Jota on. He's got to be asking the question now, hasn't he? He probably isn't. He seems like a very mild-mannered and well-tempered young lad, but he's got to be knocking on the manager's door. I'm 23 here. I'm the new crop. I'm the new guy. I'm the new big thing at Liverpool. He's got to be knocking on that door because
Firmino's not been great neither, has he?
He's just so good. He is so good, and we knew he was good at Wolves, but he's playing with a better crop of players now. Shaqiri's pass was beautiful,
sublime on it.
But Jota seems every time Jota's on the pitch at the moment, seems like he's able to get himself in a position where he's going to get at least one brilliant chance. And he keeps scoring. It's a wonderful dilemma to have whether you play him or you bring him off the bench or not, and defensively, though, against better teams, Liverpool will get undone. If they perform like that, I think.
Especially, obviously, they've got no Van Dijk and obviously that's always going to be a factor for Fabinho as well.
It's a question mark of were they lucky or were they actually very smart in getting the win against a side that other teams have struggled to get a win against, like Man City. They're their closest rivals in the league by the end of the season, you imagine. And they managed to do what Man City couldn't do. So you could really go the other way and say Liverpool did brilliantly to get a win against a team that aren't easy to get a win against. And they didn't particularly play well. They haven't looked, for me, they haven't looked like Liverpool all season. But I mean, we've got the big one coming up, haven't we? So we've got Liverpool, Man City coming up. So that'll be interesting. We're seeing the worst of the two sides that we've seen for a while, because Man City weren't at it last season and don't look at it again this season to what you would expect from Man City, and Liverpool certainly don't look as good as they did last year. They look like they're carrying a bit of a hangover from that poor end of season form.
But also the injuries, I think you've got to take that into consideration with Liverpool, surely.
Well, you
Van
do.
Dijk's a massive miss, but although they conceded goals
before the injuries, they didn't look good. So of course you account for the injuries, but before, Van Dijk didn't look as good as he has done, and they didn't look as good. So I still think that Van Dijk or no Van Dijk, it wouldn't have been as good of a season. They might have still won the league. I still think they will win the league, but they wouldn't have been as prolific as they were the season before. I think more teams will be able to undo them, and unfortunately there are players still there making mistakes. Joel Matip's not there often now. Fabinho's been rolled out. The young lad came in and had a good game.
He got man at match, didn't he?
I mean, he weren't put under too much pressure, to be fair. It's West Ham, but he come in and had a good game, and it's great to see someone like that get the opportunity. I like the fact that Klopp's done that. I mean, he's been forced a little bit, but to give him the chance was nice. But Joe Gomez, I didn't think he looked good either. I think if they were put under more pressure.
Well, it's 23 years old. I think he's called Nathan Phillips, isn't he? I think that's his name.
I think he's a Yorkshire lad as well.
I'm legend. But basically, let's say my older brother. Alas's older brother is a Liverpool fan, and he's been talking about him for quite a few years. Since he watches quite a bit of under 23s and that. I said it's surprising that someone who's 23 years old is still at the club, because normally if they get to 23. They're not going to make it, sort of. That's like the common sort of theme, innit? And they end up going down divisions and stuff like that. But the fact is, he's turned around and said, well, when you've got likes of Van Dijk and, Gomez been doing so well recently, you're not going to get a chance, are you? But they obviously must see something in him to still have him around. So, like you say, Klopp obviously, that's what I mean. That's a testament to him to stick around. And now he's got his chance with a long-term injury. And he outshone Gomez on this performance in well, it looks to things anyway. I know, like you said, he wasn't tested that often, but Gomez was tested enough to make a mistake.
I think he performed better than Gomez. Yeah, definitely.
That's what I mean. So, and Gomez hasn't been great really recently. So, I think that same age. I think maybe a couple of months between each other. So we'll have to see. Obviously, Gomez has had a lot more experience to this point, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. See if he gets more game time once like other people come back and stuff. But
we've seen it before where a player that, because he is still young, this could be his chance.
Yeah,
and you probably know he knows that.
Yeah,
that this is probably his big opportunity. Whether it means he'll be at Liverpool next season or not, but it's really his big opportunity to show what he can do.
Put himself in shot window at the very least.
And if he keeps doing that, he might have an opportunity of being a rotation player at Liverpool because Klopp will trust people that perform for him or go elsewhere. So, and when we say elsewhere, another Premiership side. So it's an absolute brilliant thing to see at his age, getting an opportunity. I love it. I think it's awesome. And if he does turn around to be something special, I hope Liverpool give him the chance. And if not, it will certainly give him the opportunity somewhere else because, for all intents and purposes, absolutely an unknown until he got called up. They did a piece on him at the start of the game, and I was like, oh, I've never heard of this guy before. Didn't have a clue.
I've seen him play 1 or 2 Carabao Cup games or something in the past, but they tended to lose those games, so I suppose that always goes against him as well. I suppose we can move on, though, to potentially... I don't know. It was probably the best game of the weekend, I would argue. Possibly Aston Villa against Southampton. Would you say? Finished 4-3. 4-0 up there was Southampton. Danny Ings, though. Pay-per-view, though, yeah. Yeah, but you know, we did a big enough piece on pay-per-view last time. But yeah, Ings, bad injury. That's the downside.
Yeah, I would be...
That's the downside for South. You touched on Southampton being a problem. They're going to be less of a problem without him, I would imagine, because Shane Long is not the same caliber as Danny Ings, in my opinion. If that's the one who's going to replace him,
I don't know who will play up top. He might even try and play Redmond up top. I mean, you've still got Che Adams.
Yeah, he's been doing all right, but he
seems to like Che Adams as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be a problem. Of course, you're going to miss Danny Ings, but I think the way the whole team plays, they'll dig in without him, and they'll definitely. I don't know if they've released how long he's going to be out for or not yet, but
I've not seen. But
they'll definitely dig in without him. Good fight back from Villa, really, but it feels like the fight back came against a team that had kind of gone to sleep because they were so far ahead, which you do see happen. Teams.
Well, 2 goals came in injury time, didn't they? So.
Yeah. You know, teams take the foot off the gas, and especially that late on in the game. The scoreline makes Villa look like they put up a good fight, but for me, Southampton absolutely romped them, and it's back-to-back poor results now for Villa, and that will definitely be a trip back down to reality for them. Not just for the fans, but for them themselves to hopefully now collect themselves and put the hard work back in because they had such a great start to the season that humble in defeat to us and again then to Southampton I think it might do them a favour because you can ride away for as long as you want and think you're better than you are, but there's a lot they need to work on defensively because they've conceded, what is that,
7 goals in the last 2 games.
In 2 games, so you need to go back to the drawing board. Although, they did score 3 goals. They showed some fight. But, they need to put the work in, I think.
Did you hear about... it was reported on the radio, so I'm guessing there's some sort of truth in it. Apparently, Villa players were asking about increasing their bonus instead of it just being relegation, like European spots. Is that getting a bit big for the boots sort of thing? Or is it obviously we've been too soon?
I don't know how much truth there is to it. Right? I don't know how much truth there is to it, but we've got to take it as if there is truth to it. Right? So when you're judging it, and you're judging these players, now they set this at the start of the season. They're a team that they just survived.
Yeah. Well,
and also you've got to look at the fallout from Watford and what happened on there. I think if Watford keeps pace, and they might not still be in the league. So you don't know. We're arguing stuff that didn't happen. So, but you've got to think to yourself, this season you start so well, and we just alluded to it there, that it might bring them back to reality and might do them some good. When you're hearing stories of a team that, if this is true, that arrogant, that they're saying we want more money because we don't think we're going to get relegated now, we're actually going to finish better. In the climate that we're in, and the way where football is, where clubs are folding, it's very arrogant, and I don't think it's a good look for the players. It doesn't show me a good sign to the players, and I think if stuff starts to go wrong, it makes me think that the players will look for a scapegoat as quickly as possible. Yeah. And I don't know who that scapegoat will be. I don't know what the situation in the locker room will be, but I think after those two results, I think that locker room won't be a great place. I think there'll be a lot of players probably pointing the blame at each other. And hey, I hope not, because Villa could have a really good season, but they need to stop worrying about how much money they're going to be paid for where they finish in the league and focus on improving those performances. 7 goals in 2 games against, and this is your problem. It's 7 goals against a team that's been promoted, and a team really that you wouldn't write home too much about. I love Southampton and the way they play, but in reality, you would say that they're at similar levels, Villa and Southampton, especially in money spent. Over the 2 seasons. So they've been handily beaten, in my opinion. It was 4-3, but they've been handily beaten twice now in a row. They need to get their house in order. Because if it is true that there is all this rumbling, and it hasn't just come from an external media source, and there is actually truth to the players saying this, then it's an issue for me. Focus on your football. Focus on what's going on the pitch. We've seen players who have rumbled before about money or about stuff, and it's detrimental to the club. Dimitri Payet, Arnautovic, we see it. Rooney at one period of time. We see this, and it's not good for the team. So hopefully there's not too much truth to it, or else I think Villa could have a few issues. But we'll see. It's 2 games, and when you're a club that's probably okay with finishing, well, you're definitely okay with finishing mid-table, or just not being in a relegation battle. 2 defeats isn't going to destroy that, especially when you started so well.
Yeah, I mean, one team that has been focusing on the football, obviously, is Southampton, and James Ward-Prowse, fucking two free kicks scored.
How good is Hasenhüttl?
Well, is after his 9-0 drubbing, he's just like the light obviously shines out of his ass.
but in reality, how good is he? Because would we have talked? I think James Ward-Prowse is brilliant, but would we have been talking about him a couple of years ago like that?
Possibly not. We all knew.
Well, was there? We certainly weren't talking.
Oh
about
no,
him
definitely not. But we all knew he had some ability and he had talent. And he looked like a promising young player, and he could take a set piece,
and he could take a decent shot. But I don't think I genuinely think that as a central midfielder, he's one of the best utility central midfielders to have in the league. He's brilliant because he can pass the ball, he can shoot the ball, he can take a set piece. He can drift into these positions that you don't expect him to fucking be in or get in. I think that he is definitely underrated. Definitely underrated. I'd love to see more of him in the England team because I think he's a creative player that the England squad, especially in recent games, could fucking use. And I don't get how we've overlooked him. But again, I love the way that Hasenhüttl plays his football. Him as a manager, to me, is absolutely flying under the radar. And another Pochettino.
Well, someone was suggesting on radio about potentially replacing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but is that too big of a job?
Pochettino went from Southampton to Spurs.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put it past Hasenhüttl being able to replicate in league position, and definitely in performance. We're already seeing the kind of football these teams play. It's high press. It's great. They get good at getting in behind. Very well attacking unit. That he can achieve what Poch did at Southampton. So then the difference is Poch he didn't go under the radar, and I feel like Hasenhüttl does, and Southampton does. To be fair, at the moment, Southampton are just flying under the radar, picking up great victories, playing great football.
The fifth,
just kind of flying.
Well. It's showing in the table at the minute. I mean, Everton were miles clear from everyone, and now and they lost the first game to Southampton. To be fair to Palace, and
they'll give everyone a good game.
100%.
They will give everyone a good game if they play the way that they like to play. If you play against Southampton, you just don't want to play their game because they're gonna be better than you.
Yeah, fair comment. They've been clinical, I think, is probably the best thing, because just having a look at the stats, and actually they had 4 shots on target and every single one of them went in. So, yeah, 9 shots to 19.
They are so good going forward, though. Because look at them, who did they play before Aston Villa? I can't remember now. And they were so clinical then when Ward-Prowse managed to get in behind, and the back line basically watched him.
It was Everton.
Behind.
Yeah.
They're just they're so potent going forward. They must scare back lines with the way they run at them and the way that they drift in behind. I think it's impressive. Yeah. They're nice to watch.
I think it's just going to be interesting to see how they do without Ings and see how they get on. If they can continue the form, and other people are going to score, as because he only got one of the 4, did Ings, to be fair. But it's just a case of... I feel like
as a unit, they seem to be spreading the goals.
Exactly.
All season so far, they've spread the goals out very well. And Gineppo's another player that I think is brilliant for them.
Yeah.
He can get a worldie. I think he might have scored against Chelsea. But yeah, exactly like you say, it depends. Ings has done so well leading the line at Southampton. I think everyone's loved the story of Ings because he looked like he was going to be great when he was at Burnley, and it just didn't work for him at Liverpool. And Klopp said on several occasions that he liked Danny Ings, but he just, he couldn't rely on him. And I just hope it's not too bad for him and they can get him back, because he's starting to feature with England and stuff. It'd just be a shame if it was a really long-term injury, but we'll see. And we'll see how Southampton can do without him.
Yeah, 100%. But moving on, just talked about him briefly. Everton lost against Southampton last week, and they've lost again, this time away at St James's Park. Oh, sorry, it's the Sports Direct Arena, isn't it? Newcastle, 2-1 winners. I believe it was Callum Wilson that got both. Yeah, penalty and the late goal. Late goal to make it 2-0, and Calvert-Lewin got one late on, made it a little bit nervy at the end. How did you see the game?
Everton were awful.
Yeah, they were. What's happened?
Everton were
What's
awful.
actually happened? Pickford were dropped as well. They had
tell you what's
Swedish
happened.
guy, isn't it? Olsen, is it?
Luca Digne, James Rodriguez, and Richarlison. Now, they didn't have any of those players for this game.
Right.
And they lost 2 of them in the other game against Southampton. Digne got sent off against Southampton. Richarlison couldn't play because he got sent off prior to that. Straight reds as well, so it's 3 games. And it was so bad. It was such a bad performance. It was easy for Newcastle.
And you wouldn't have thought it, would you, at the beginning of the season?
The distribution to Calvert-Lewin, because we talked about this on the stream, because I watched it on the stream, and we talked about how terrible the distribution, because the conversation was Calvert-Lewin needs to do more, he needs to come... But for me, that's not how he plays as a striker. He needs good service and good players around him. He'll score the tap-ins. He'll head the great balls in. And they just didn't... They had no distribution to him whatsoever. He was getting absolutely nothing until the goal. I think there was one chance before that, actually, where he hit the side netting. But until the goal, there wasn't very much to him all game. And, Callum Wilson did what he needed to do, and Steve Bruce did what he needed to do. But I'm sure Newcastle fans will carry on hating him. I was more disappointed in watching Everton during the game than I was in it being impressed with Newcastle, to be fair. I came away from the game, and while watching the game, I was thinking, bloody hell, like, how rubbish are Everton at the moment in these last 2 games after looking so good?
It's since you predicted them to win league.
It is as well, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's obvious now, more than ever, that God do they miss Richarlison, and they really miss the creativity of James Rodriguez and the runs of Luca Digne down the left-back position. They really look like they missed those 3 players. I mean, they look like they missed Richarlison massively in the Southampton game, because you're always asking yourself that question when he's down that left-hand side, because he's so good at running at you. He's so good on the ball. And when you don't have that, and unfortunately to Iwobi, his career hasn't kicked on there, it's worrying. It's worrying for Everton. They need those players back, I think.
Well, that's obviously Wilson's first goal with a penalty. Was it a penalty?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing else to say. Because obviously, I mean, he's just trying to try to clear it. It's a bit unlucky in it from Gomez. He's just trying to clear the ball. He's just caught him, hasn't he? But it's just one of
Yeah,
those,
but
isn't
there's
it?
more than enough contact.
Yeah, it's just one of
More
them,
than
though.
enough contact.
I've had it happen to me
I thought it was sloppy
Sunday
from
League.
Gomez. I thought it was sloppy from him, to be honest with you.
What, because you should have seen him coming, sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to be alert to your surroundings in the box. I would imagine the one place where you need to know your surroundings most is in the box, and I just felt like it was a bit sloppy, especially with the way that Everton usually play. I thought they'd try to play it out.
That's true, yeah. I never thought of it like that, yeah, because they like to pass it about now, don't they? Obviously, with Ancelotti's tactics. And I like Gomez. He's a good player. Obviously, he had that horrific injury last season, and he's come back and is getting, obviously, he's got his place in the team regularly, despite, obviously, a few midfield players coming in and that. Obviously, there's Sigurdsson, and it seemed to be them two sort of rotating, innit, I would have thought, but...
Yeah, to a degree. I think he probably is favoured. Central mid is Allen, Decore, Gomez. I think.
Yeah.
I think that would be his favoured. Richarlison on the left. I think Sigurdsson's getting into the system a bit more because he's had to change it with injuries and red cards.
Red cards, exactly. Yeah.
I think that gives Sigurdsson, and I like Sigurdsson. I always have done since him being at Swansea, but his career's kind of gone a different way now, which is fine. It does, doesn't it? Your career doesn't always stay on the same path. He used to score bloody screamers every other week when he were at Swansea, but
yeah,
I think he's probably getting more game time because of that. I would imagine he's normal free in midfield. I imagine he plays his Allen, Holding, Gomez, and Decore. Gomez more the playmaker, Decore more the box to box. But I like him. I think he's a great player. It's one of those. It's just we're going to see a lot of penalties this year, and I think if you're a player, I don't even think you punish your player as much unless it's a ridiculous penalty that's been given away. You kind of just go, look, get on with it. Giving away a penalty, get on with it. At the end of the day, penalty or no penalty, they weren't anywhere near good enough.
Yeah, it's a fair comment. Newcastle, obviously, you've already touched on it. They're probably going to be happy. They're probably not going to be happy because it's Steve Bruce, but they've got to be ecstatic, surely, with this result.
It doesn't really. I don't know what his style of football is, and I'll always give Newcastle fans that because I don't really know what his style of football is. St. Maximin missed a great chance.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
As well. Looked a bit uncomfortable. I think did he limp off? I can't remember, but I'm sure he got brought off anyway. But he missed a really golden opportunity, which you'd expect him to bury. But the Newcastle squad just excites me with the personnel they've got. And Callum Wilson's going to get you goals. They're going to get points. They're going to finish mid-table. I feel like that's already done and dusted.
Yeah,
Everybody's
looking at
that already. So, just enjoy the good games. There will be bad ones, but enjoy the good ones when they happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't really complain, really, because everyone, again, we're probably tipping them to be somewhere down there, but they've just proven everyone wrong again, aren't they, I guess?
I think if you were tipping them to be down there, it's on the back of Steve Bruce and the hatred for Mike Ashley. It's not really based on Newcastle because they've been solidly mid-table for ages now. Really. Ever since Rafa.
Since Rafa, yeah.
Ever since Rafa, and Steve Bruce will do it now for back-to-back years. So it's just an interesting one. I'll tell you what's interesting to touch on in regards to Newcastle, actually, is the fact that their takeover didn't go through, and there's all this talk now of Burnley having a massive takeover, which you'll definitely be very happy about, because if that happens before Football Manager's released, you've got a lot of
probably
money,
not going to happen, though, is it?
We might have to rethink our decision, but no,
it's done now. I wasn't even aware of this. So I'm quite excited.
200 million or 200 billion pie. I don't fucking know. I read it on Twitter, and it's been talked about. It was on the BBC tweeted it out as well. That apparently some rich geezers want to buy, but I don't know why you want to buy Burnley. They want to buy Burnley. So I suppose any Premiership team is an attractive buy because they can rebuild the stadium, they can rebuild the youth facilities, they can make it pretty. They can make it pretty, and I imagine Burnley would be a fairly cheap acquisition as well in terms of a Premiership club because. It doesn't look good for them. Again, they didn't financially spend this year, and I feel for Sean Dyche because he's never really been able to spend. But yeah, it's just interesting because with the Newcastle thing, they didn't get their takeover for God knows whatever. reason. If Burnley one happens, then it's really interesting that theirs went through and Newcastle's didn't.
Yeah, 100%. Just for those who don't know, me and Yoki are going to be doing a network save. The links will be in the description below for Twitch. We'll just we'll release later on the dates and stuff like that. The days rather per week. Fridays most likely, and I think we said Sunday originally, but we'll see. We'll look it out. But yeah, keep your eyes open. Right, so moving on to the next game, it was the first of the 2 evening games on Sunday. Man United against Arsenal was billed as a massive game, a big game. Did it disappoint? Yes, by the yawn that you're doing, I'm assuming that's what you're taking from the game. Yawn fest.
I strained before, and we talked about the game, and we talked about it before the Man United Chelsea game as well, and they're always the biggest letdowns.
Yeah.
Man United Chelsea, Man United Arsenal, they are always the biggest letdowns. You're expecting this great game of football, and it's an absolute
snooze fest.
It's an absolute snooze fest. It was a game that Arsenal absolutely dominated, in my opinion. Man United looked shocking. They certainly didn't look like a team that had just beaten RB Leipzig 5-0. Questionable changes during the game. They brought off Greenwood, brought off Fernandes. For me, 2 of their better players. Beats me. I don't know why you bring them off. Although Matic did look good when he come on. But Wiley Pogba on the pitch. He gave away the penalty. Was a penalty, in my opinion, definitely. Pogba was sloppy throughout the game. Man United were just awful, and Arsenal did what they needed to do to get the win, which they've done a lot this season. When we talked about when they lost games, it's more because they were just ineffective. Again, in this game, ineffective in reality. Would they have scored without the penalty? I don't know, because they created, or at least it felt like they created chances. But when you look at it, they didn't create that much. It's not like they.
Seem to remember Willian hitting bar, and I think.
But that's about it. Yeah. Really.
Aubameyang stretching it back post, Gaza-esque.
They just didn't create as much as you would want. They need to fix that. Arsenal definitely need to fix that. They need to get better in front of goal, because they're not doing it for me at the moment. But again, played badly, won. Well, no, they didn't play badly, because they dominated midfield. Their press was superb. The way they pressed Man United struggled massively to really get anything going. But yeah, again, billed as one of the best games of the weekend. The big game, boring. Thank you. Again, Man United, Arsenal. Hopefully, Liverpool, Man City will show that 2 big teams can play each other, and it can be exciting, because at the moment, we're not seeing that. It kind of, when we're watching them, it seems like 2 teams that are like, we just don't want to lose. We just don't want to concede. We just don't want to look bad. And I hate it, because I want the teams to go out and attack, obviously, as a neutral. And yeah, but we weren't impressed with either team, to be honest with you. Great win for Arsenal, but again, they play like that every week, and they will come undone, because teams will hit them on the counter. Teams will score goals against them, and they need to figure out how they put the ball in the back of the net when controlling a game like that. Man United didn't seem to be great defensively, but Arsenal didn't really pose a threat. They really didn't. The shining light, Thomas Partey looked unbelievable. Yeah. Thomas Partey looked fantastic. I was excited when they signed him. I think they've got their man now. They've got their midfielder that they've been crying out for a long time, for that style of midfielder. It makes you question why other teams did not make the decision to go and activate this man's release clause, because I think he's going to be fantastic for Arsenal for maybe the next 10 years. We'll see how it goes for him. But yeah, Arsenal yet to hit their stride, and I think they will, Will you imagine they will? God, I hope they do, because they were great towards the end of last year. But yet to hit their stride, I think, for Arsenal. But if you're a Man United fan, you're worried, right? You've got to be worried. And I said it, and I've had this conversation with Man United fans. And Man United fans always say to me, it's just because you're a Leeds fan and you hate Man United and you blah, blah, blah. Looking from it from an objective standpoint, your transfer business this season is absolutely fucking shocking. Your transfer business for the past 5 seasons, since Fergie left, your transfer business has been shocking. Your team looks woeful. It's the most bipolar team I've ever seen. You beat PSG, you're shit. You beat RB Leipzig, you shit. I don't quite comprehend what Man United are anymore as a club. Can't wait to play them. Can't comprehend what they are as a club anymore. The backline lacks identity. There's no leaders. They don't look like they're trying to win the game. They've got some great individual players that don't play well together as a team. Is that on the manager? Is that on recruitment? We saw it with Mourinho. He didn't get the players he wanted. He was pissed off. The team suffered. He gets sacked. We've seen the same with Ollie, in my opinion. There's no way they're the players that Ollie wanted. They didn't sign a striker. They didn't sign a right winger. They spent half the bloody window trying to flex and say that they're going to get Jadon Sancho, and then they didn't. They signed a youngster in Palestri who I hope he does well. They signed Van Beek, who is ruining his career at Man United, sat on the bench thinking we're playing this crap and I can't get on the pitch. Yeah, it's awful. Their transfer business is horrendous. I don't know why they signed Cavani. I don't know why they signed him. He must be on a lot of money, and he's not really doing all. I can't really see him scoring many. They've signed a Gallo. Who are Man United anymore? This rich history, this club that you feared, this team that would die until the last minute. You know, we all whinged about Fergie time because they would score late on, so on. They pushed every single minute of the game and worked their asses off every single minute of the game. I don't know who they are anymore. I think they've lost all their identity, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I was just about to say in terms of signing players. I can't remember if I mentioned it with you last week, I think. But with Man United, I think with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they're not as big a draw as they used to be. Even though it's Man United, yeah, the biggest club in the world, you'd argue. But with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you're not going to get the right calibre of player to make them feared, if you get me.
I disagree, because you look at Castagna. Brilliant player, went to Leicester. Why couldn't you get him?
But that's what I'm saying.
Nelson Semedo, brilliant right back.
But Man U didn't sign him. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Why aren't Man United signing these players? You're hunting the big names.
Is it that's what I'm saying. Is it the manager? This is what we're on about. Yeah, I do remember. It was last week.
It's not the manager.
But why?
It's whoever's signing the players, whether it's Woodward, whether it's the board. Because you can't say it's the manager, because Ollie is a yes man at the moment, but Mourinho didn't get the players he wanted. He came out publicly and said it fell apart when he asked for certain players and didn't get them.
Right.
So it's not Ollie. It's whoever makes the deals. It's whoever decides who they're signing.
Am I right in thinking that when Mourinho were there, he wanted Champions League? Because they've got Champions League football.
He got them Champions League. He won the Europa League for them.
Yeah,
Mourinho
afterwards,
saved them.
Yeah.
Mourinho saved them and got them Champions League. Got them a second place finish.
Right. Yeah.
Won them a trophy. And didn't get the players he wanted the season after. And then it all went downhill. He said he needed defenders. He said he needed better players. He didn't get them. And that's why we see Ollie there. And Ollie now, this has to be one of the worst transfer windows in history for Man United. They were chucking around names like Ousmane Dembele, who's now scoring for Barcelona in the Champions League. They were chucking around names like Jadon Sancho. It just surprised me. Thomas Partey, brilliant midfielder. A hard-working, more defensive midfielder. Didn't sign him. Didn't let enough players go. Didn't get rid of the deadwood. Paul Pogba's still there, and he's a problem at that club. And you didn't sign us. The biggest thing for me, and I said it last year when they sold him, all these Man United fans, and I've got a few friends that are Man United fans, surprisingly, well, community members. When they sold Lukaku, I said, there's no way you can let go of someone like him and not replace him. And they didn't replace him. And everyone said, nah, he's fat, he's lazy, he's rubbish, he's crap. And I went, you don't get crap in a season. Obviously, the system doesn't suit him. So if you're going to let him go, replace him. He goes to Inter Milan, bangs in goals for fun, has a superb goal-scoring season at Inter Milan in Serie A and Europe, goes to a final that Man United couldn't make it to, admittedly got knocked out by the team that did beat Inter in the end, but they never replaced him. And that's where, for me, problems start happening. You're not replacing your better players, and you're making terrible signings. I love Van der Beek. I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. But if you're a Man United fan that's going, oh, we signed Van der Beek, that's great, and you're not worried about who you didn't sign in positions that you needed, not in the centre of midfield. You signed Bruno. You've got Pogba. You've got Matic. You've got Fred. You've got McTominay. You didn't need Van der Beek. You didn't. You needed a right winger. You needed a striker. You needed better defenders, and you didn't get any of them. Arguably, I like Telles. We'll see how that works out for him, but it's not enough. And he's coming into a disjointed squad with a manager who I don't really think has an identity. Like, you can see what Arteta's trying to do with the team. You can see what Lampard's trying to do with the team, although sometimes it doesn't work. I don't see that with Man United. I don't know what style of football they play, sometimes on the counter, sometimes on the front foot, sometimes in a diamond. I really don't know who Man United are anymore. I certainly don't fear them as a team to play against. And I don't know how they get out of it. I don't know how they get out of it. I tell you what they do need to do is fire whoever signs these players, because it's a joke. I don't know how you can have a board and a hierarchy, keep doing what you're doing in the window while teams around you are smashing it, and carry on as you are. I really don't know how they do it. It's the problem is I want Man United at their best, because the rivalry between Leeds and Man United, I want both teams at their best. And we are not seeing the best of Man United, and I don't know when we will. I don't know what they do to save the situation they're in. I don't know about you, but they're going that way. They're going backwards.
It's looking that way.
They're not going forward.
It's looking that way. You can, unless like some things drastically changed somehow, and I just don't see it with Ollie. You know, I can't see them going back to the lofty heights, and not quickly. Even if say they got in someone like Poch, you can't see it happening overnight. It's definitely going to be a massive. It's still like a massive rebuild from Fergie. You know,
look at how much
they
money
spent. That's what I mean, and that's what I mean.
Money they've spent and just thrown away.
You know, they had Van Gaal and well, obviously the Moisey first, and they had Van Gaal, and then they had Jose Mourinho. I mean, Jose Mourinho, he's arguably like the best man for that job, but it just seemed to be, for whatever reason, at the wrong time.
Well, he had a good first season. They finished second, albeit a lot of points behind Man City, but they finished second. And Lukaku had a great goal-scoring season. They won the Europa League.
That's what I mean. But then he gets forced out essentially and sacked.
Well, he didn't. This is the thing. I think Mourinho, you've got to keep him happy, and we've noticed that now from knowing Mourinho's managerial style. You've got to keep him happy. He weren't happy with Pogba, and they didn't back him on that. He fell out with Pogba, if we remember rightly. He thought Pogba was a bad influence and that he was childish, and he thinks the same with Dele Alli. He might turn that around with Dele, but Spurs have obviously backed him with that. You're the manager. You do what you need to do. We'll bring in the players you want. And we're seeing, for me, in my opinion, we're seeing a Spurs that could potentially win a trophy this year. We don't know that, but we're seeing a much better Spurs. You look at Man United, Ollie always to me seemed like a yes man. And he would do what the board said, we think this is right for the club. So he'd go, yeah, I want what's right for the club. You know, imagine if they hired Roy Keane. Imagine that. It's just, for me,
be interesting.
You've had arguably one of the best managers in world football, and even he was like, God, this is a nightmare. And now I don't see how you turn it around. Pochettino isn't the answer for me, and I don't want Pochettino to go there, because I think it'll be a huge bump in the road for Poch, because I don't know how you fix the team. I really don't know how you fix the team. You've got some great individual players there, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Man United don't have great players and they won't win games this season, because they will win games this season. But there is no way, shape or form that Man United is anywhere a sliver close to the Man United that we knew for years and years under Fergie. And I'm never expecting them to be the same, but God, I'm expecting them to at least be close. And I don't see Man United winning a title for a long time. Man United could end up doing what Liverpool had to do.
This is what I was going to say.
Rebuild, find Klopp, find their niche, and now they're back up there. Man United could be, and their fans could be about to witness and experience that happened with Liverpool happen with them, because you can't keep throwing this kind of money. They're in a lot of debt as well, because, you know, American owners are shit. But in the start reality is chucking money we've seen doesn't work. Liverpool didn't spend anywhere near as much as the other two, as Man United, as Chelsea, as Man City, and probably one of the most feared teams in Europe on their day. So money isn't always the answer. It's the recruitment of it. And, you know, we've seen that with Man City, because they've chucked a hell of a lot of money at it and it hasn't just worked. So it's a process. And now we've seen with Chelsea, why can Chelsea sign Ziyech, Havertz, Werner, Thiago Silva, Ben Chilwell, and Man United can't sign any, or even anyone close to their quality in terms of where their previous club was. Not even close to their quality, in my opinion. Telles is someone who, as most fans in England will know because of sports games, but we don't know how good he is, and he's been playing at Porto at a level that he's not Manchester United. Cavani hasn't got a great goal record anymore. And Van der Beek is a really exciting young player. In the right system, I think will be a wonderful player. But definitely that's not Man United. That's not Man United. And it comes from, it doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of more bewilderment of what the hell's going on. What the hell is going on there? I don't understand it. I don't understand. If me and you can sit here and see that their transfer business is crap, how do they not know? Are they that delusional and that deluded? I don't know.
Top end, maybe, yeah. I was going to say about, like, with Poch, it's obviously, his next job is massive. What he needs to take needs to be right for him, because if he slips up now, his reputation is completely ruined, right? It's someone who hasn't won a trophy, right? And what he did at Spurs when he left Southampton was he made players better and took them close a few times. That's all he did, really. But it was still respected. No, I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm saying on paper, in CV-wise, he hasn't increased his CV. Hold on. Let me finish.
Is trophies the only thing on the CV that
No,
matters?
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is where I'm going to, right? If he goes to Man United, they're going to expect trophies, whereas he's going to want time to implement his system, to get players through, improve them. And that is what he's all about, which is I don't think he'd be a good fit at Man United, personally, because of that reason.
Yeah, but we don't know if that's the case. We don't know if he goes in at Man United and they go, look, we're just going to back you as a project because everything we've done is wrong. If it takes 5 years, it takes 5 years. We don't know that.
But what about the fans? Because they demand instant success.
It can't be any worse than what they've got now because they ain't having success.
I agree with exactly. They've got to follow the Liverpool template.
And it would take the right manager for the fans to go, we need to give him time.
Yeah.
And Poch certainly probably would hold that way. I think what everyone forgets that you look at Tottenham and what Poch actually managed to achieve at Tottenham, a Champions League final, a second place league finish, and what Tottenham spent compared to the rest of the teams in the top 6 is the lowest out of all of them. A net spend, this is taking in sales and profit, of 90 odd million. Compared to teams that were 500 million. That is unbelievable that he got to a Champions League final and finished second in the league, third in the league, was always a top 4 side until the season he left. That he managed to achieve that while dealing with not being able to spend money because the stadium's being built is unbelievable. The work, when you break it down, I think people look at it and think, he out-won out. When you look at what he did with what he had, I can't be underlooked.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I agree.
The teams around him were spending an absolute fortune, and he was still putting them to the sword. And when I looked at the figures, because I watched it with him last night, when I looked at the figures, what Tottenham actually spent and what he achieved, it's bloody unbelievable. It really does showcase actually how well he did at Spurs. Considering the squad he had and the money that they actually spent. Mourinho spent probably more money now. Well, probably not more, but around about what Poch spent in his entire time profit. That's been what he spent above sales. So it really is impressive.
Yeah, I'm not disputing he's not impressive. What I mean is in terms of what Man United fans would be expecting. Hence why I wasn't about his CV. But
I think the thing is with Man United at the minute is that I don't think they're a team anymore where you can say we demand trophies because you don't have that.
But a lot of fans have got that entitlement still.
But those
the Fergie factor.
Those fans will probably be outweighed by the fact that you just simply aren't good enough.
That's what it is, isn't it? They're just not good enough at this moment in time.
You need a manager.
Two teams at least that have vastly surpassed them at the minute. And Liverpool and Man City, and then you can go throw in Chelsea. Yeah, there's probably more. What I mean is they're the ones that are vastly above them, and then you've got the rest of the pack, which Chelsea arguably could maybe throw in Leicester at the minute.
Chelsea have got more recent titles than Man United.
Of course they have, yeah. You know, they haven't won. They haven't won a. They haven't won the.
Chelsea won it under Conte.
They haven't won the league since Fergie, have they?
No.
Fergie's last season, I believe it was, wasn't it? 2012.
Yeah.
So eight years without winning the Premier League. 8 years without winning the Premier League. It's unheard of in my lifetime for Manchester United not to win it. You know, and they were so dominant in the 90s and the majority of the 2000s. You know, with a sprinkling of Chelsea and Arsenal in between. You know, and actually, bear in mind, Arsenal, it's their first win at Old Trafford since 2006, I think it said. 14 years.
It had been a long time.
So, and that's the way they're going.
So I think by how far they've fallen, I think now there would be time for a manager. They would give time to a manager, and they have to a degree given time to Ollie.
To Ollie, definitely, 100%.
But I mean, there's probably a lot more patience there because of his start. You know, his past with the club. But I think if you brought in Poch because of his name and what you know Poch does with his ability, I do think he'd be given time.
You'd like
especially
to think
if you sold it as this is our plan over the next fans. Although they probably won't tell the fans this, but this is our plan over the next 5 years. We need to rebuild. Chelsea did it after Conte. Had a bit of time with Sarri, didn't work. Lampard's coming in. We can't spend one window. We're going to rebuild. And that's exactly what stage they're at now. Liverpool have done it a few times, but never really spent big money and still managed to achieve it.
If they have spent big, they've sold to like balance it out, haven't they? You know, look at Coutinho. You know,
that's what I'm saying. They haven't spent big in the terms of they've actually made money to spend the money, whereas Man United haven't. Neither of Man City, neither of Chelsea. So Poch can definitely do a lot with a little. It's just if I'm Poch though, and Poch isn't an idiot. I don't go anywhere near Man United unless I'm guaranteed that I run the show and the transfers I won't get made.
Well, that was one of his issues at Spurs, wasn't it? I seem to remember he complained saying he's called a coach, not a manager or something.
He complained in the last season when things went.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
And I don't think this was aimed at Daniel Levy. This was aimed at the media because the media was slating him, and he's going, "I don't sign the players." But I think there was a very good understanding between Poch and Daniel Levy, especially the way Poch talks about Tottenham and the club. And I think there was a good understanding that this new stadium came first because it was for the future for them. And it didn't go to plan. And it definitely hurt Pochettino's reign. It definitely hurt his reign at the club. And I think it was very difficult to get over the hangover of the Champions League final. And the decision was made. But I think Poch definitely cherishes the time he had there and what he managed to achieve. And there's some players there that we might not have seen the best of. He certainly had a huge impact in Harry Kane's career.
Oh, massively. And Son.
You know, what he achieved was fantastic. And I think it's really fitting that because they are good friends that Mourinho comes in and carries on that task now. And maybe he does get that first trophy, but I don't think it'll ever be forgotten the work that Poch did there to get them where
definitely not.
And Mourinho then carrying the torch on after that, without a doubt. And I think Mourinho knows that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Tottenham, we can move on to their game. It was the late kickoff, I believe it was pay-per-view as well. Tottenham 2, Brighton 1. Bit of a contentious penalty decision involving Kane and Lallana for the first goal for Spurs. What did you make of it?
It was a terribly reffed game.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say that I thought it would striker backing in personally, but
it was just a poorly reffed game. I didn't see it as a foul.
No,
I don't. That's not a foul that was worth a penalty anyway. No. Maybe outside the box it's a free kick, but it's definitely not a penalty.
But did they argue a foul's a foul? Wherever.
No, because they don't do that though.
I know they don't. I know you're right in that regard.
There are fouls that happen in the middle of the pitch that would never be given as a penalty.
Yeah.
So it was, no way a penalty. There's been the question of did Harry Kane look for it? I don't know. He could easily have been trying to shield the ball and checking his surroundings. And Lallana does. He jumps for the ball and he does go into him. Most people.
He's already up in air, isn't he? He's already up in air when Harry Kane comes into him. What's he want to do? What's his up in air?
Well, I would imagine if the ball's coming down.
Yeah.
The ball's coming down, right? You want to be in front of it.
Yeah. But he jumped up to Eddie, hasn't he?
Harry Kane's backed to try and get the ball because he's trying to shield it, and then the referee's just given a really poor penalty.
Yeah.
I don't think anything should have been given. But I don't really think it was Harry Kane trying to buy it. Although he did try and buy a foul later in the game, I don't think that was him trying to buy it. I think it's a case of Harry Kane sees a player behind him and backs up to try and shield the ball down and take the ball down. It doesn't work. Lallana comes through the back of him. But it's not. For me, it's not.
So
it's not a penalty.
I'm going to say Brighton scored. I believe it was this, which completely rewrites my my theme of what I've been saying about VAR and checking the monitor. I want to say there was a foul, or we thought originally there was a foul on Højbjerg.
There was a foul.
Well, this is what I'm saying, right? There's a foul on Højbjerg, a foul. Let's call it a foul for now, and it makes its way through eventually to Lamptey, and he scores. But then he's gone to check the monitor, and even despite checking the monitor, because I've always said if they're checking the monitor, you might as well just overturn whatever the decision is, because they're always doing it. If it's not a goal, they say, look at the monitor, it's a goal. Right? This time, it wasn't. There's a slight touch, and I know what you're going to say, because you're going to... Well, I'll let you in a second. Right? There's a slight touch, and that's why he's said, well, it's not a foul, because he's made contact with the ball with his heel. But, as you said, it's kind of gone through the back of him, and I'll let you just digress. Go on.
Well, this is the first time they've gone to the monitor, and he should have overturned it, because... I don't see how people don't... If you don't think this is a foul, then there's several occasions in a game then that there's ones that aren't foul. Because this rule of if you get the ball, it doesn't matter if you take the man. That went. That's gone. That's been gone for ages. Just because you've got just because you've made contact with the ball doesn't mean you can take the man out. Højbjerg is definitely on the counter. And for me, it just looked like a smart professional foul to stop the counter. He may have got contact on the ball, but he takes the man out from behind as well. This isn't a tackle from in front where he gets the ball. He's taking his man out from behind as well. It's definitely a free kick. Like, it's a well-taken goal by Lamptey, but it's definitely a free kick. If that was my team, I'd feel very hard done by that I've not been given a free kick there, because he makes contact with him as well as getting the ball from behind. For me, it's a free kick, and he meant to take him out because they were on the counter.
But luckily it didn't cost him. Luckily it didn't cost him, as Gareth Bale got his first goal since returning to the club. Good header as well, wasn't it?
He's looked bright. I think every game I watch him, his footwork's nice. He's getting there, isn't he? As long as he doesn't pick up an injury now, I think he's getting there and scoring a headed goal there. He definitely adds something else to the team. You could argue if Gareth Bale had been on the pitch, they wouldn't have scored the goal to win the game, and that's important, winning those kind of games, because Brighton's not an easy game. You've got two decisions that were stupid, and the referee didn't cover himself in glory for the entire game. I think I read on Twitter he hasn't got a game for this weekend's fixtures coming up, so that kind of shows you how his reffing's been judged by the FA. But yeah, I mean, Tottenham will be happy, won't they? Mourinho will be happy, and they seem to be doing this a lot this season. For me, I think that's kind of the Mourinho factor. They did it against Burnley, got themselves something late on, and again here, they beat Brighton. He's picking up good points at the moment, under the radar as well, again, because we're talking about other teams. We're talking about other teams a lot that are quite exciting, but Spurs are just ticking along nicely under the radar, and they could be a surprise package this year. I do think that this could be the first year that Spurs win a trophy. I think it'll be the Europa League. But
did they get beat though midweek?
They did, but I mean, they got beat by Antwerp. They didn't look at the races. They didn't play very
really
well.
Good, to be fair, didn't they? But
Antwerp are unbeaten and top of the league. So, and you went to their stadium and they defended brilliantly and countered. They could have scored more, could Antwerp. But I mean, it's one game in the Europa League. Yeah. It's the group. I don't think it'll be remembered if he goes on. For me, where Mourinho shines is in the knockout stages. That's where we'll see. That's where we'll see him at his best.
So yeah, no any concerns with Brighton? I think I seem to remember. In fact, that
they can't score goals.
I think Ben White played in a DM role similar to like what he played for Leeds, which he'd never done before until that point. But yeah, they played Veltman. Trossard played up top as well. Yeah, Trossard up top. So
they Brighton worry me.
Yeah, no, they've worried me for a bit, but They're
I love
creating
the way they
chances and they're not scoring them, and that's the problem. Obviously, they scored one goal, but to be fair, they only created 6 chances despite having all the possession. Oh, well, not all, but they had the
need to
majority.
sign. They need to sign a new striker for me, and
We said that,
Trossard
didn't we, at the
and
beginning of the season, didn't we?
yeah, I've said it a few times, but Trossard and Solly March need to chip in with more goals as well. For me, in my opinion, they're going to struggle this season unless they can find goals. I definitely believe they will find goals, but they need to figure out where they're going to come from. And
because they play some really good football, don't they?
They play some unbelievable passing football, some lovely play, great movement on and off the ball. Can't score the goals. And my pay for me is, I don't know. Sometimes I think he's brilliant, and other times he annoys me. So I don't know if he's the answer. I think, but again, with Brighton, it probably is a financial thing. They have spent fairly big on players before, and I don't think they spent big this season. So yeah, financially, this is probably not the season where they do go in for a big money signing or a striker, and they'll do fine. I think with what they've got.
I think they'll sail.
They'll beat the smaller teams.
Yeah, there's at least 3 teams that are worse than them.
Easily. Yeah. So I think they'll stay up on that, and then maybe next year's the year where they spend a good bit of cash. But yeah, it just worries me that their goal situation.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to yesterday's, because we're doing this on the Tuesday. Yesterday's pay-per-view game, Clash of the Titans, Fulham against West Brom. The 2 teams that came up in second and the playoffs last season, meeting for the first time, and Fulham came out on top 2-0. Ola Aina scoring an absolute worldie in the first half. And then that was after Bobby Reid, actually, who scored a header. De Cordovia Reid, I think is something like that. Yeah. So but for me, West Brom, very poor again in front of goal. 10 shots, 1 on target. They've got to be worried, haven't they?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna.
They've got to.
I don't know how they're gonna score.
We talked briefly before we started, and you said I predicted Fulham rock bottom. I mean, I still kind of think that, but as you mentioned, they've strengthened with some decent players on the late on in the window. I'll let you go into it.
Ever since deadline day, we mentioned this last week. Fulham just look sharper. They look like they've got more about them. They look like they're going to fight. They look like they will create stuff, and it's not going to come off in every game. Defensively, they've got these frailties, and a better team going forward will punish them. They will, but players like Adama Luckman, who maybe could have gone off, maybe could have been sent off. I don't know. It was 50-50. And Olaina and Loftus-Cheek. And, Mitrovic hasn't started scoring yet. And at some stage he will start banging them in. I just think if there was one team in that bottom 3 that might have enough fight going forward to get enough points on the board to get themselves out of it, I think for me now that probably would be Fulham. Looking at the way they've strengthened, I actually quite like their squad. We've also got Kenny Tete as well. Kenny nearly scored a goal that was off the line. Yep. And then I think it was De Cordova Reid's shot blocked on the line as well. Definitely not an handball.
Yeah, his arms, it's hitting me a bit.
If it hit his arm, it was hitting his chest.
Yeah.
I think for me, they've definitely got the players there that if Scott Parker gets them playing right, they could survive. They could survive. They definitely got threats now that I think will be able to score in the Premiership. And if other teams do slip off or have poor seasons, which we've seen happen before, Fulham could definitely capitalise from that. I don't think West Brom could. I don't know where they get their goals from. I like Dean Garner. I like Pereira, but they're not going to get you consistent goals. They're not going to get you a lot. I don't know if Robinson will get you many at all. I mean, he didn't get many at Sheffield United. There's a reason that he went out on loan. And I just worry for West Brom that they didn't strengthen as well as some of the other teams. They didn't strengthen as well as Fulham, in my opinion. But we'll see. There's loads of time left, and there are a lot of teams struggling at the minute. And there's teams that you could see flip-flop. Now, a lot of us talked about Palace. We also talked about Villa maybe struggling. And just because they've had a great start doesn't mean they can't start going downhill now and other teams turn
I
it around.
always think of Hull back in day.
Well, look at that! Look at that stage when they were what? They were, was it 7th or even
They
better than that?
They had an unbelievable start, and I think they lost the last game of the season. But fortunately, the team below them lost as well, and they end up staying up. And then obviously they went down the season after. Yeah,
second half of the season, didn't they? And that it would worry me a little bit more if I'm West Brom than I am Fulham. I've seen signs in the game before this as well, since the end of the transfer window, that they might have some fight in them. They've brought in some good players. It's just how well they can defend, I think, would be the big worry.
Well, Fulham have conceded the second most, 14, joint with Brighton. To be fair, the ones that have conceded the most, West Brom.
I think West Brom for me will be dead last.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
See how it goes next couple of games. I might join you in that thought process, but they've scored 6. They've scored 6, but 3 of them were against Chelsea.
And
so they've scored 3 in the other 6. Yeah,
Chelsea were games.
Yeah, and they've scored 3 other goals in the other 6 games. So again, you take away the Chelsea game, and as you said, they're not scoring enough goals neither. And as you've seen, well, as I just said there, they've had 10 shots and only 1 on target against arguably the weakest team in the league. You know, but you would have said at the start of play. Well, I know obviously looking at paper it's different.
Think you said that after the transfer window, though.
I think they were rock bottom though. They were rock bottom at the time. I seem to remember.
No, but I think on paper, when you look squad for squad, you wouldn't have said Fulham had the worst squad after the window was done. I would have said that you'd have looked more at someone like West Brom.
I think they were second bottom. I think Burnley were below them on goals scored because they'd only scored 3. But it's probably quite exciting for Fulham now because they've had some decent performances and maybe not got the rewards. And like I said, they've got a reward now against arguably, what you say now, possibly now the weakest side in the league. So it'd be interesting to see if they can kick on from that, I guess. But
they've definitely grown in confidence.
Yeah,
and they've got players in that team that look like they can make stuff happen.
Yeah.
So hey, who knows? It's the Premiership. You never know. And we. At this stage, I still think Sheffield United and Burnley will be okay. But
so if that's the case, then who's the other team that's going to drop in then? Because if you say West Brom are going to be down,
at some stage that might not be the case. So if Sheffield United don't sort their act out, they won't be okay. If Burnley don't sort their act out, they won't be okay.
And they don't get a buyout.
And a team like Fulham will be able to capitalise on that. We don't know what's going to happen with Villa now. I think they'll be absolutely fine, but they could go on a terrible run.
Yeah.
Same with Palace. So all the teams that have had good starts that you're like, oh, these are great, we're still very early doors, and anyone could end up down there still.
Yeah, and one of those teams could be Leeds United, because we obviously. Well, I just thought it was a good segue to go into.
But it could do.
Yeah, it could do. Very much.
We don't know yet. It depends on runs of form, and I think a lot of it depends on teams, mental ability to kind of deal with losses.
Yeah,
and Villa managed to go on some poor runs last year. I'm not saying they'll do that again. I think their squad's far better than it was last year. Far better than it was last year. But if they take a couple more bad losses, you never know what can happen. So
momentum.
And it's the same with Palace. Although I think they'll be absolutely fine, I also think Sheffield United and Burnley will be fine. Someone's got to go. So you really don't know. Depends on the runs they have. But I'd say West Ham were a team we thought would be down there, but have had the hardest start to the season.
And they're coming out of it shining colours.
And they're coming out of it in a brilliant position. And they're going to go on a run of games now that you would say are more comfortable for them to win. So who knows? Who knows?
So yeah, obviously I just touched on that. Regards Leeds. Well, that was the late game last night. Obviously we're very disappointed. But, 4-1 loss, I think that was a bit of a... It wasn't a 4-1.
It flattered
him, definitely. I mean, we gifted him a goal early doors. We had bad pass.
We gifted him 3 goals.
Well, basically. It were mistakes. I mean, for me personally, in terms of watching Leeds in the last couple of years, with Bielsa at the helm, I thought for me, first half, Pablo Hernandez. It was
It's the worst half
worst
I've
game.
seen.
Yeah, worst half I've seen. But Pablo Hernandez, he had an absolute shocker first half.
So did Click though.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know. He had a couple of weird like pass choices, didn't he? Like the header backwards and stuff that put us under pressure. Just before the second goal. But yeah, like Leicester are the ultimate counter-attacking team, and when we were dominant again with the possession, but we didn't do enough with it. And the chances we did get, Patrick Bamford had two glorious opportunities. One just before the first goal, and then one in the second half where his first touch just let him down, and he ended up stretching, and keeper got too close to it. And they were at key moments. I think we were obviously would have gone 1-0 up instead of 1-0 down, and the second one would have been to make it 2-2, I believe, just before they got the third goal. I
think the big key moment was Pablo's.
Oh, we hit the bar as well, but I think obviously
Pablo hit the post just before they scored.
Well, there was two moments then.
A bit before that.
A bit before, was it? Well, even so, it was still at 2-1, wasn't it? Because obviously we got the
goal.
Yeah. Got the goal rather fortuitously. It was a cross that went straight in, missed everyone from Stewie Dallas, his first ever Premier League goal. Yeah, Leicester just always looked threatening, didn't they, on the attack? Vardy's a handful. We've said all along how important it is to them. And
I think it's a team that you can't make a mistake again, especially a team that is clinical.
Yeah.
You can't make a mistake again. It's Leicester. You just can't, and especially on the counter attack. And we always are going to struggle with a counter attack.
Mm.
You know, we already know that. The way we play our football, it just is what it is. And when you don't take your chances, especially Bamford, but then you look at the moment where if Pablo scores that, it's a complete different game. Yeah. The energy just from him scoring that as well, and him getting that first Premiership goal for Leeds would have been huge, and it would have been a fantastic finish as well. But it hit the post.
What did you think to his reaction when he got subbed off?
A bit petulant. I mean, I don't mind it too much because it shows how passionate he was.
Yeah.
And how much he cared. So I don't mind it so much. And I 100% guarantee there was no back and forth between the manager. He just sucked it up. He was just angry in the moment.
Because he actually turned, because I said first half it was shocking. Second half, he actually looked like our most influential player.
He did look a lot better in the second half. I think the problem is the team in general was just dreadful. Like, there's patches of decent play, but we were sloppy. We were sloppy at the back. Every time they came forward, I was nervous that they were going to score. Yeah. And that's not been the case against other teams. But every time they came forward, we were all over the shop. Defensively, our passing out was poor. Click's passing was poor. Harrison didn't even wake up until the second half.
Yeah.
I thought Costa was just in and out of the game. Sometimes a great moment, then non-existent. Bamford was feeding on scraps, but two great opportunities, which, I suppose you can forgive him. Hat-trick the week forward, but he needs to take them. And in the grand scheme of things, you can't expect Bamford to be unbelievable every week, and the rest of the team needs to chip in. And they didn't. We got lucky with the goal from Dallas, but you've got to take that luck when you get it. And one big moment for me was they brought Maddison on and they brought Under on, and we brought Tyler Roberts on. It just kind of showed...
I was going to touch on that. It was a championship side, exactly the same as last season. The only change was Koch for White.
Who gifted them the first goal.
Yeah.
So... And there is this big question, and I want to talk to you about this one, obviously, but there's this big question about Koch, right? And how do you rate him? Do you think if we had Llorente, he should be still starting?
Koch. Well, I personally think long term, because they've invested in the players, I think they'll go for Koch and Llorente as the starters, because he's left-footed as well as Llorente, so go the left-hand side in place of Cooper.
Well, yeah,
but Cooper is the captain.
At this moment in time, they're both fit.
Yeah.
Would you start Koch after this first 7 games, or would you give Llorente the go?
I still think Koch overall has been decent. It's just that he's got a few mistakes in his locker, hasn't he? And it's just that if they keep coming to us and
how many mistakes can he make?
Well,
because
it's how many they get punished. You know what I mean?
7 games, he has made quite
it's been about 4, hasn't he?
Matches, he's made too many for a Premiership centre back.
Yeah, but he's still learning. He's still fairly young.
No,
he's 23.
I completely get that. But how long can you forgive him? Letting him make the mistakes before he needs to come off?
What you're saying, Matt, is your patience running out on him?
My patience isn't running out of him as a project.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so much good from him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's how much does the good outweigh the bad.
The problem is you can't do that on a consistent basis and be a starter in the team. You've got to be dropped at some point.
Yeah.
You can't just keep doing that and be, you're still in the squad. Because
I think if Llorente has to start...
It's the mistakes he's made
that
are frustrating because there's just no...
They're avoidable, aren't they? They're avoidable. Yeah. But Llorente has to start. I mean, he kept fucking Ronaldo quiet the other week. Spain against Portugal. You know, he's shown that he's got something about him anyway.
How long is Cooper a centre-back at the club in terms of a starter?
See, that's what I mean. Everyone's like, oh, Cooper's back in team, nice one. But
I
as soon as I saw that team on paper and then realised that Vardy was playing against us, I thought, he's going to have a field day as Vardy. Cooper's like the slowest player at the club.
I thought we were in trouble. We were missing two players that I'm very excited to watch. We were missing Llorente, who I really...
Well, yeah, Rodrigo, he's got COVID, hasn't it? It's been confirmed today he's got COVID, hasn't he? So he's going to have to miss Palace game. I haven't got to
see him much. And we really are injuries in really pivotal areas. But for me, and I know you mentioned that as well in our group chat, but for me, it does not excuse for the way the boys performed. Because at the end of the day... You go out there and you give it your best, and we were just really honestly the worst I've seen Leeds play in a long time, and I've never seen them play that bad under Bielsa. And it's not like being like, oh, Leeds are crap. I think we'll bounce right back, and I think Bielsa will have a good word with them, and the boys will sort the crap out. But you get punished way worse at this level when you are as sloppy as we was, and we were really sloppy. We were really sloppy, and I love Harrison and I love Costa, but I don't have that much faith in them. Poveda for me came on and sprung us into life again. He's so good on the ball. He's so tricky on the ball. He wants to go past his man. He's like a little ball. You get him on the pitch and he wants to run at you, and I love that. And I just think over time and over a few seasons, I think the majority of this squad we're looking at now
will be phased out.
We won't be looking at.
As long as we stay in this division.
Well, I think we will do. I've got no doubt in that.
Yeah, I've not.
We might still be looking at Koch. We might still be looking at Meslier because his shot stopping has definitely improved. He's getting better. We might still be looking at Rodrigo and Rafinha and players like that. But I think the majority of this team, we might not be looking at in 4 or 5 seasons' time. I don't see many of them being mainstays, and that worries me. And it's the worst I've ever seen Click play.
I thought he battled hard, especially second half.
I thought he made far too many misplaced passes for the position he was playing. He made some terrible.
He was playing in Phillips' role, wasn't
he? Yeah, he made some terrible choices.
Yeah,
and we couldn't bring him off and put anybody else there. I felt like he was sinking in that entire.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's the one thing I was saying in the Discord chat is that, you know, we didn't have any game changes. You look at, like you said, look at Leicester. Who they bring on, and who do we bring on? You know, Tyler Roberts. You somebody. Paveda's the only one. He was the only one.
The rest, well, at least the rest we don't know are a game changer because they're so.
Yeah, we're bringing on Alioski, who, let's be honest, he's not the answer, is he?
No, of course not. And Tyler Roberts, and I've always slated Tyler Roberts as someone who is good on the ball, full of energy, but no end product. He scored 4 goals in the Championship for us. He's not a Premiership player. No. We missed the impact of which is surprising to be saying it because we didn't know what his impact was going to be, but we missed the impact of Rodrigo.
Rodrigo, definitely. Because he'd started the season really well. But
he helps Bamford as well, though, because when you're playing against us, you don't just have to worry about Bamford up top. You've got to worry about Rodrigo, and those two seem to press really well as a 2 and dip in and out of that top 2 position, and it gives you a real question as a defence. And I think we needed that. We needed to be able to put them under more strain, and I think it worked brilliantly against Villa because it gave Bamford a lot more freedom, and I felt like he didn't have that in this game. Bamford was just up top. He was just there. He was just stagnant. He had to be up top. He was the sole focal point. And after the man's just scored an hat-trick, they're not going to give him too many opportunities. They're certainly not going to give him too much time on the ball without having that extra player to cause panic, which would have been Pablo in the Championship. And I've got no doubt when he gets up to speed, he'll be able to offer something in the Premiership. But without having that and our wingers playing so poorly, and I do really like Jack Harrison, but it would not surprise me if we don't take up the deal and sign him. And this is the last time he's on loan at Leeds because, and I think that's why Rafinha's been signed. I just think that he's out of his depth in the Premiership. I really do. He had that one great moment against Liverpool, and I'm sure that'll be something that we can always look back on and remember. But he doesn't get the ball in enough. When he does get the ball in, it's sloppy. He doesn't put the ball in well enough. And Costa, for me, sometimes just goes missing.
He's hit and miss in his because he's either really, really good or he's like...
He had moments in that, though.
He's either really good moments in the game or he's just really, really shit, just loses the ball.
The skill for him to get into the position, to play the ball into Bamford before they'd scored was brilliant. It's fantastic.
Harrison nearly got the assist, by the way, if he'd have scored it.
Why would he?
Because he headed it back across.
Oh, yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the same as I'm talking about his ability
crossing,
yeah. I was really impressed with that, but then I thought, lively start from Costa, and then he just disappeared for the rest of that half. I didn't even know he was on pitch, and that worries me sometimes. I think our wingers need to do better. I really do think our wingers need to do better, and I think Bielsa has found this little new way of playing with Bamford, and because we didn't know if Bamford and Rodrigo were going to be
just rotating,
Yeah. Whereas them two playing together actually is really good.
So far. Yeah.
I think it's worked well. I think it gives Bamford more freedom and less pressure. And it gives Rodrigo gets to play in the team with Bamford, who obviously is a Bielsa favourite. And I think that's the best we play when those two are on the pitch together.
So far this season, anyway, yeah.
I think we have a much bigger impact on how the game's going forward. I think we look like we struggle a lot more to break teams down without them, especially with the players we had. And like you'd said in the chat, there was no one on the bench where I thought he's going to come on and he's going to change this.
That's where the problem lied. Whereas that Under came on, he's looked very good in his first two. I think his first two appearances.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he came on.
He nearly scored in the Europa League. Yeah, and he assisted Vardy in this.
He assisted against Arsenal as well.
There you go.
Yeah,
you can bring on Maddison as well. So I mean, Harvey Barnes looks better for them this year as well.
Yeah. I mean, he got goal, didn't he, early on?
I slated Leicester because I thought, how long can Vardy keep doing it for? Well, there's at least another season that Vardy's going to keep doing it.
Yeah, because he's already proven it.
As ever.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's eating. I don't know what they're feeding the lad, because you could do with some of it, because you've aged a lot. And Vardy just doesn't seem to be. He's just as quick. He's just as sharp.
Silly bastard.
He's just as dangerous as he was at the start at Leicester. He's scary for a defence to play against, and I think we definitely felt that in full force. And when they can bring on players like that, it's
ridiculous. That's where the Caesars in the Premier League, where we can bring in extra players and like you said, phase out the players that are maybe not quite up to the standard. You know, that's what we'll maybe hopefully be in a position like they are, where we maybe contesting the top four places. But at the minute, I think we're about right. I said 12th. We're 12th at the minute.
Yeah.
And I think Leicester definitely going to be up there.
When players are on the game, regardless of it being a championship squad or not, will play well and will do well. And those lads will do well, and they'll do well over patches all season. But I think, like you said, this is we expected mid-table. I said 13. You said 12. So I didn't expect us to beat every team. In fact, I felt the media disrespected Leicester a little bit, because I think they're a wonderful side. I thought they were going to cause us problems.
Score 5 against City. You don't do that with being shit, do you?
They're a difficult team to play against. But what I did also think was, they counter. They've got probably one of the best counter-attacks in the league. And we don't deal well with the counter. So I don't know why the media was as Gabby did say, up our arse, because I don't think they gave Leicester enough credit whatsoever. And a lot of it at the end of the match was talking about how Leeds did wrong, and not actually how Leicester played, that was just far too superior to us. The first time we looked like a championship side that had been promoted. Yeah. I don't think that'll happen too often this season, purely because of Bielsa and the way we play. But I think we'll slowly see that championship side phased out and bigger names come in.
So 2 things I want to go through before we finish. Right, one is, and they're both involved in this game. Quickly, we'll touch on the penalty decision. Do you think it was a penalty for starters? It was click. I can't remember who it was on now, but basically it was. I think it was Maddison.
It was Maddison, yeah.
And he went through the penalty area, and because I think we talked about this before. I think it's that whether, because I thought when he made contact, he was on the line. So is that classed as in the penalty area?
If we're working on the mindset for the last time it happened, I think it was the Liverpool game, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It was on the line.
Yeah, Fabinho won it, yeah.
So it's a penalty.
Right, so
that's what they're saying.
Wrap it with that then, yeah.
And if that is what, well, I thought it was on the line. I thought it was stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
To be honest with you, but from where I was sitting, it was definitely on the line. So if that's the rule, when it's on the line, it's a penalty. It was a penalty.
So the last thing, which I think is, I don't know, I don't understand it. I'm pretty sure they looked at VAR for this. Leeds had a penalty decision. It was Ayling in the far corner. He went down. Turns out it was a dive. Now, I hate diving. Should have been a booking. I'm pretty sure I looked at VAR, saw that there was no contact, so it's clearly a dive. Why did they not book him? And do you think they should be?
Because VAR's there to overturn a decision, not to make a decision.
But you're overturning the fact it could have been a penalty. In fact, they didn't overturn it. But if you could see it's clearly a dive, why are they not punished?
No, because they didn't take any action.
Right.
And because the referee didn't book him for a dive, he just didn't think it was a penalty. It's then not VAR's place to go, you need to book him.
Yeah, but it's the referee's place, and he could see when he's looked at the monitor or whatever.
The referee didn't look at the monitor.
Well, they didn't. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. He didn't. Yeah.
What you've got to remember is VAR is that this is what VAR is supposed to be there for, is to overturn incorrect decisions.
Right.
Wasn't an incorrect decision, no penalty.
Right.
So it's up to the referee who's ruling the game to decide whether to book him for diving or not.
Do you think they should implement it? Where they can punish him for dives?
No, because it'd slow the game down. I think the referees need to be more up on it. It's a difficult blurred line because I don't want to see games stopped and then people starting to get booked because of we need to use VAR. I'd rather that VAR didn't get involved.
Well, I'm not saying use it on that. I'm not using it for that purpose. They use it to check a penalty, right? So if they're checking a penalty, but also at the same time they can see that there's no contact made, it's clearly dived.
But what you've got to remember is sometimes they're checking for a penalty while play's still going on.
Yeah, well, that's fine, but they can see it. They can see that there's there's been a clear dive. Just say ref, there's Ayling's is just dived. You need to book him for it. So when the ball goes out of play, book him.
I don't know.
I don't see how that takes any more time.
I don't think they need to implement that. I think referees just need to get better with it. I mean, I think diving's a part of the game and will always be a part of the game. It's difficult to accept that, but it is part of the game because no one knows now how much contact is enough contact for it to be a penalty. So, and players do look for it, and it wasn't great from Ayling. It was a.
I think he expected contact. He just never came. But
I think that's exactly what.
I've seen it happen a few times before in the past against us.
They're expecting the contact to come, and the player pulls out. The contact never came, so he dives. But no, I don't think they need to start pulling it back. I think, to be honest with you, I mean, then you'd have to stop the play at some point for the referee to book him for diving. And
also, say you wait while it goes out of play.
I don't know. If they brought it in, wouldn't bother me. If it's not in there, doesn't bother me either. I'm kind of used to diving now. I don't like it, but it's in the game. It's probably always going to be in the game. It just feels to me like another another decision that you've got to make. That this one for me was quite obvious, but the Salah one isn't obvious. So then that's a 50-50. People thought it was a penalty. Some people think he threw himself to the floor.
But I think if there's contact, that's where you could decide that. If there's contact, then you can see why he's gone down.
We have the same argument: how much contact is enough contact? Because
well, it seems that's enough for a penalty. So it doesn't matter.
You could have, and we've seen it before, the tiniest bit of contact in the box. Kane on Aaron Connolly, not Kane, sorry, Pogba on Aaron Connolly, which I thought was a penalty. But they didn't give a penalty, so should they have booked Connolly for diving? Well, that's your problem. You open up this new realm of there's going to be so many scenarios where could have been a penalty, couldn't have been a penalty, could have been a dive, couldn't have been a dive.
I would say if it's like clearly a dive though.
But this is the problem again. The argument is always going to be what's clearly a dive.
Yeah, but if someone's literally got your arm on, then you've just gone down really softly. That's different.
Is it's supposed to be there for clearly a penalty, and how often do we get that aren't clearly a penalty? So you're just opening the realms to more arguments about VAR. I think the less they use it in the game, the better. They should only use it for offside, red cards, and penalties, and they still fucking get it wrong. But at the end of the day, if you're offside You can fucking super kick someone, injure him for a full season.
Yeah.
Don't matter, mate. No problem. Crack on. Carry on playing. So it's just, that's my problem. You bring in this diving thing, and nobody wants diving in the game, but you bring it in, then you just open it up to even more conversations and more messing about in the game. I'd just rather VAR's used for only the important moments, and that's it. And they still seem to get that wrong.
No, that's a fair comment.
Consistently all season.
That's fair.
Like the handball situation.
Well, yeah,
so.
but they changed that though, didn't they? Obviously, they changed the ruling.
They have eventually, but
yeah, but some of the damage is already done, isn't it?
You would then have this idea of what's an interpretation of a dive and what's not. And you can say, well, the blatant ones, but there are ones that aren't mega blatant that then should still be booked for diving if it's a dive. But then I just think it opens the realm to more issues.
Yeah, that's fair comment. I mean, be interested to find out your thoughts as well. But hopefully I've enjoyed this edition of the Liquid Football Podcast. And yeah, don't forget, of course, to like, comment and subscribe and check out the socials. They'll be on the screen now. I've been Tenacious G. He's been the Yorkie Man. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Cheers. No.